Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals, like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/motivation or text motivation to 500-500. That's audible.com/motivation or text motivation to 500-500 to try Audible free for 30 days.
The weather is cooling down a bit. The leaves are starting to fall. Yes, it's that time of year again. Football season. And we all know the best part of any game day traditions are the ones that involve food. There's nothing like having everyone in your game day crew coming together to bring their best bites and argue over whose family makes the best chili. And while there's no need to mess with the perfection of game day classics, like a freshly grilled Oscar Mayer hot dog topped with Heinz ketchup and mustard, it's always fun to step out of your comfort zone and get creative with your recipes. Because there's nothing more fun than adding to your list of game day traditions, like making a creamy and delectable queso dip with Velveeta cheese that can be eaten with so much more than just chips. Now is the chance for people across the nation to find out whose game day eats reign supreme. It's your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food tradition to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
Hey, here we go, Tom. So we got an interesting one today. You guys weren't teammates, you just missed each other in LA. But this next guest is very influential to you. And the number 353. We got Jim Thomson on today.
All right, the great Jimmy Thomson. What's happening, brother?
Not much, Tom. Great to be on again.
So if anybody watches me or follows me on Facebook and Instagram, it's the Instagram where I posted 353. I was always getting up early and doing a post at that time, some motivational video, but it was around like 350 or 355. It was kind of random. The trailer that you grew up in, the trailer park, the number on it was 353. So you asked if I could do it 353 every morning. And I tell you, it's really made a difference in my life. I know it sounds like a small thing, but I'm really learning more and more about how important discipline is in your life. And you, by me adding that for you, it actually has helped me more. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, and I thank you too, because I like it every time I see it. And it inspires me because, it's dear to me. It was my Muttons mobile home. And so every day I get to see it, it gives me a good jolt.
That's good. That's perfect. That works out that way. All right, so let's talk about your playing career. Yeah, so we actually were together at training camp. That was the year I retired, and you were coming in. So we got to chat a few times. So you grew up in Edmonton. Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, Edmonton, and moved when I was 15, turning 16 to Toronto to play junior hockey there.
That's right, too. So in your playing career, I might have followed you. You were a pretty tough guy. Were you like as a goal scorer when you were a kid?
I was, Tommy. I scored just under 70 goals my last year of minor hockey. In the American Hockey League, I was on a 50-goal pace one year, 24 another year. And you know what it's like in the American Hockey League. It's not easy to score there. So I had that scoring ability, but I always thank my brothers who are pretty tough dudes, bikers that, taught me sit at the back of the room, make sure you see everything, and always protect your family. Well, a hockey team like you protected your teammates. And I hated fighting. I don't like to use the word hate. I was not a fighter. I had these protective instincts, and it started in junior B and carried on to the OHL. And, I didn't enjoy hockey after, basically junior in a sense, because, every night you go to bed and get up, there's a chance you're bare knuckle fighting a guy like Dave Brown, Marty McSorley, these guys, Probert back in our day. And it wasn't a lot of fun for me, but it was my dream, and I did it for 10 years.
Yeah. You got Marty. I've talked about Marty McSorley too, where he first came in the league, and I see this as a total compliment to him. He couldn't play in the beer league when he first started. He just couldn't skate, but he knew he had to fight every night, and he did that to stay. And then he made himself into a player. So you really have to admire that. So where'd you play your junior B then?
Devon, it was called Devon Mustangs. Actually, sorry, that was the midget team. Devon Drillers in Devon, Alberta.
Oh.
And what's funny is I was 14, scoring goals in midget. So they called me up, and ironically, I got into a fight with a 20-year-old. I'll never forget a guy with a big beard, right? You know, I'm in warm-up, a young kid skating around going like, this is...
So you're 14 years old, and you're fighting a 20. Wow.
That's criminal.
So, well, what happened was I scored, and I got cross-checked from behind. And as I was getting up, this big dude was standing over me, and he's like, let's go. Well, you know what it's like. You just don't even think.
Yeah.
And I caught him. You know, one of the things my other brothers taught me was hit first.
Yeah,
so I just took a cowboy punch at this guy and caught him right on the chin and knocked him down, and he was down for a few seconds, and that's where it all started. Because now in the Junior B loop, which is a tough loop out west, they're talking about this 14-year-old in Devon knocked one of the tough guys in the league out. So I didn't ask for it, Tommy, but that's where it started.
Right. So you move off from Junior B. Where'd you play major junior?
So I started with the Toronto Marlboros of the OHL. I moved with my uncle and aunt. I was as we get into my other part of my life. So I started drinking and smoking dope when I was 12, growing up in the trailer park. So just to kind of speed this up. So at 14, my dad saw where I was going in life. You know, I had the long hair and hanging out in cars and parks and not a lot to do in the trailer park. I always say this, if you watch the Trailer Park Boys, it's kind of how we grew up.
Okay.
So anyways, he brought me down to Markham to meet my uncle and aunt. My uncle was a 25-year recovering alcoholic, and he straightened my life out and got me a tryout with the Toronto Marlboros, and I ended up starting there, going to the Markham Waxers in the Junior A loop, and then back with the Marlies the rest of my junior career.
Right. Wow, pretty cool. So then that's where you played. You were drafted out of the Marlies? Is that where you drafted?
Yeah, to Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What round did you go in?
9th round.
Oh, okay. Now, were you at the draft?
No. I was in my mom's trailer. And what's funny is back then TSN covered the first 3 rounds. Right. So we had a draft party because my agent said, you know what, maybe 3rd to 6th round. Well, I figure I'm getting drafted. There was 15 rounds back then. No, 12 rounds. Sorry, 12 rounds. So the party had all come and gone. It was 9:00 at night. It was just my best friend, my mom, and I left in the trailer. And about 9:15, the late Jack Button called me from Washington and said we selected in the 9th round. So it was a great night for me.
Yeah, that's for me. I was drafted. I was cleaning the shit out of the horse stalls in the horse breeding farm in Guelph, Ontario. Yeah, they called. Obviously, no cell phones back then. They called my father at our farm, and I was working at another farm. So they called me up to the house. My father says, "Oh, you drafted by the New York Rangers." I said, "What do I do now?" He says, "Get back out there and finish cleaning the shit out of us."
You know, it's funny. One of the things I remember about you, you sat at the front of the bus. We were traveling in training camp, and you were so kind. Like, you know, I'm a young kid, and you're the veteran, and you had a bad back.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah,
and I just remember your kindness and your humor. And I said, this guy's really cool because you just treated everybody the same. It didn't matter if it was Gretzky or me, and that's something why you played a long time. And I've talked to some of your other teammates, and you know, your kindness and your who you are is why you are who you are today.
Well, that's very sweet. That means a lot to me.
Did you guys fight each other in camp then after that?
No, I saw.
Oh, you did. I know, but you weren't in camp, if you remember, because your back was bad.
Yeah, well, I think I was there, and they were trying to rehab it, and it was just clear it wasn't going to rehab, and that's and it's really funny to tell that story too, because I remember how I felt. Like I knew that my career was ending, but I was so like naive or where it was. I remember Rogie Vachon called me up at the Great Western Forum up to his office, and it was right after training camp was done. I tried to come back, it didn't work, and he said, "Tom, your career's over with." And man, that was the weirdest feeling. Like I remember walking up that ramp, you know, the ramp going out of the Great Western Forum, and thinking to myself, like that whole life I'd been on a team at some point, and now all of a sudden I was actually scared. It's like, you know, what is going to happen to me? But
just like Survivor.
Yeah,
you're off the island.
Yeah, very true. Okay, so
Well, I went through it in Anaheim with 2 shoulder operations. And after my second operation, the doctor says, nothing more I can do for you. He goes, this is probably it. And I went home and same thing, lost in space, right?
yeah, okay, it's a weird feeling, right? Yeah, you're a grown man too. We talked to this before. You know, I can't remember if we were on a show or just did a personal conversation, but you talked about how, listen, we're so proud that we played in the NHL. It's fantastic. It's a dream come true. But it was some way when you think about your life, kind of sets you back in your life, right? Because you spend probably 10 years of pro hockey where you live in this life that is not the real world at all. And we don't understand that when we're in it. Then after we get done, we realize, wow, it's not the way the real world works.
No, and as you know, everything is done for us, and you and I are very blessed that we came out of it, survived it, are living a good, healthy life, and sadly, a lot of our alumni are struggling because what happens is you don't get an education, and if you don't find your way, Tommy, and like myself, got into drugs and alcohol, you sink really quick, and there's a lot of guys struggling out there because they didn't find their way because we were in this bubble for 10 to whatever years that you're in it, right? From junior hockey on.
Very true. Okay, so you get drafted by Washington Capitals. So do you do American Hockey League for a while first? Where did you go?
Yeah, Binghamton, New York. So I played for the Binghamton Whalers for the first 2 years. Got called up 10 games with Washington. Got sent back down. I hurt my severed a tendon in my knuckle in a fight against Montreal. Hockey Night in Canada. Parents watching, big deal. And
Who'd you fight?
Mike Lawler. A defenseman.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah, good player. He's tough.
Yep. Yeah, he could fight. So anyway, and then Brian Murray said to me, I had 195 penalty minutes as a rookie, which, in the American Hockey League, I'm this young kid, and you would know this. And Brian Murray said to me at the end of the year meeting, he goes, if you're going to play on our team in our league, you're going to fight more. And I thought I had done enough to make a statement. Because I fought a lot of tough guys, in the American Hockey League, Bennett Wolf, Val James, these guys. There was a lot of tough guys down there. And I said, fight more. So the next year, which, again, I told you at the start of this podcast, I did not like fighting. I had 41 fights in 57 games, 360 minutes, led the league in penalty minutes. The next year made the Caps. But it's something that... it was a tough mental year for me because I'm like, if I want to live out my dream, they're asking, you got to do it, right?
Geez, I remember going through that too, where I came in and I was a pretty good scrapper, but like I was like you, like every night you're going like you got to fight Bob Nystrom and Clark Gillies, Paul Holmgren, Ben Wilson, and you think, okay, I proved I can fight, but do I want to do it every night like that? So I remember when I got in the agent business, Warren Reckel, who was a teammate of yours, correct? You played with Warren, so he was one of my first clients I got. And he was in the minors, and I remember I had to say to him, I said, Bundy, listen, I hate to say this to you because it's the worst job in the league, but if you're going to play in the National Hockey League, you need to fight everybody. And he was happy I told him, but I felt bad saying it to him because I knew how tough of a job it was.
Oh, it's awful. Sleepless nights, and it created a lot of my, numbing of the fear because this, Tommy, and I watched your fight tapes and how many, these big dudes that you had to go through. And it's not easy going to bed, sleeping, knowing that you're going into Detroit with Probert and Kosher there and Grimson and Peluso in freaking Chicago. And then you go over to St. Louis and it's twist and chase.
Sure.
It's just a circle for guys, the goal scorers go to bed, they sleep peacefully, or the penalty killers. For you and me, it was difficult. Mentally, it killed me.
So now, were you drinking at this time?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was drinking, and here's you're on the road. A bottle of wine turned into 2 bottles of wines.
Yeah.
Right. And then pumping the coffee and Sudafed the next day to get yourself pumped up. And yeah, I was a basket case because I wasn't built for that. I was tough.
Right.
But I wasn't to go into Philly, like when I was in Washington, I had to fight Dave Brown twice. Well, that's like I grabbed on, I made sure I tied up his left. But one of my points is, you said it at the start, I was a goal scorer.
Yeah.
Right. And the only way I was going to live out my dream was to put the Jof on, the Vaseline on the face, all that game that we played.
Right.
And I would look in the mirror going, wow. But it was negative for me.
Right. How many years did you spend in Washington?
Just over 2.
Okay.
That was the 3rd year I got traded to Hartford at the deadline. And then from Hartford to New Jersey. And then I signed as a free agent in LA, and then Anaheim. Via Ottawa. I played in Ottawa a bit. I've been the only player, just so I don't know if you remember this, the only player in the history of the NHL to go in 3 expansion drafts.
Oh, were you really? Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
You're famous.
Minnesota, Ottawa, and Anaheim.
So you had the one stop in LA. Did you go back to LA?
3 times. So what happened was I was with LA.
Right.
I got picked up by Minnesota remember San Jose and Minnesota split?
Yeah.
So then at the entry draft, I was in the same trailer watching with my ex-wife. And remember Jim Thomson, the defenseman?
Yeah, sure do.
Okay, so LA makes a trade with Minnesota. And the guy said Jim Thomson on TV. I'm like, shoot, why couldn't it have been Jim Thomson, right? Going back to LA.
Oh, okay.
Because I got picked by Minnie in the expansion draft. So anyways, the phone rang, and sure enough, Jack Button says, welcome back. Right. So it was me. And then the following year, I got picked up by Ottawa.
Right.
At the Christmas deadline where you can't freeze. I got traded back to the Kings again. And then the final time was Anaheim, and that's where I got hurt.
Okay. And Wayne Gretzky really liked you a lot, didn't he? He wanted you on the team.
He did. So, when I got the second trade, I was in the hotel, and Bruce McDowell, our owner, came up to me and goes, Wayne made this trade. And they traded a good player for me, Bob Kudelski, who was a 20-goal scorer.
Yeah, he's good.
And it was, I was good in the dressing room, a lot like yourself. I was a fun guy, kept people loose, and obviously I had their back. So I think in a way, you and I were very similar of how our personalities were with our teammates, and made sure that nobody took advantage of them.
It's part of who we were, right? It's just you don't really plan on being that. It's funny, you mentioned Bruce McDowell. What a great guy he was, and everybody doesn't know he went to prison for a couple of years for bank fraud, but tremendous guy. He treated us fantastic. So we were on the road, and he would come to me after the game, give me like $2,000 of cash, and said, Tommy, take all the guys out for beers. And it was actually, and back in those days, that was part of the culture too, where, Gretz is great hockey, a great athlete, but he also powered some pretty good beers too. He liked having the beers. He's a good guy. He's a team guy too. That was funny.
You said something that, from a fan's perspective, like you said, Wayne Gretzky made the trade, or at least Bruce McDowell told you. That's incredible, because people don't realize that.
Well, it was, and I was like, wow. And, Wayne saw my value in the dressing room. Sure. He saw, obviously, there's Marty and Jay Miller there, but, you're going into Calgary. They had a tough team. There's some of these teams that you needed some extra toughness, so that helped too, right?
Right.
But yeah, I always thanked him. He always treated me, I always said this about Gretzky. He treated everybody the same, and that's what made him special.
Yes, he did.
Didn't matter, Coffee or Curry were sitting over there. If Tommy and Jim were sitting over here, we were just as important.
Yeah. He was a funny guy, too. He had a good sense of humor. There's a couple times we went into Chicago one time, and you see a young guy reporter comes in the room, the cameraman and everything. We're getting ready for practice, and you can tell the young guy's all fired up, right? He's going to interview Wayne Gretzky. He's got the hair all done and suit on and everything. And he goes over to Wayne and he says, Wayne, do you think we can start the interview now? And Wayne goes, what are you talking about? I'm not doing an interview here. And he did it for like 10 or 15 seconds. You can see the poor kid was crushed. And then Wayne goes over, he puts his arm around her and says, come on, let's get this done.
Nice.
He was funny. Yeah.
Definitely. So you ended up, you talked about the injury you had in Anaheim. What was that?
Shoulder. So what happened against the Islanders, remember David Volek?
Oh, yeah.
So I got on the ice, and it was my first game in Anaheim, sadly, and went over and I hit him, and my shoulder pad had moved, and he had put a stick up. And just blew the AC joint and all that. So tried to keep playing. I think I played 5 games after that, and then they did reconstructive surgery. Did the rehab stint, came back, and I still had major pain. And when you're playing our type of role, you got to have your arms, right?
Yeah.
So they went in arthroscopically and cleaned it out, and came back from the rehab stint on that, and I still had major pain. I couldn't reach out. It was really bothersome, because I'm like, why don't I feel better? And that's when the doctor put his arm around me in the dressing room and goes, I hate to tell you this, but I can't do anything else, and it's not going to get better. So
that was it. So how did you feel? We touched on it a while ago there. How did you feel at that point? Like kind of in shock? I mean, that was an injury for you.
Well, when it hit me, it was an injury. right? When he basically told me it was done. This is where I got a hammer over the head. So my agent was Steve Bartlett.
Oh, good guy too.
And great guy, yeah. So he called me and he said, the Ducks are going to buy you out of your last year of your contract. He said, don't go to the rink anymore. I'm like, don't go to the rink anymore. He goes, yeah, you go clean your locker out, you're done. That's when it hit me. And I'm, oh my gosh, I'm done, right?
Right.
So,
Wow.
that was,
So during this time then, so now your career ends. Are you married at this time?
yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the whole, like, are you doing any drugs at this point, or is it just drinking?
Oh no, I'm smoking dope, and don't forget I've been out, better of a year and a half.
Sure.
Because rehabbing, that's where I got addicted to opiates, right?
Okay. Right.
So yeah, I'm doing all kinds of things.
All right, so let's go back now to when you're young. You talk about your brothers and the biker gangs and everything too. Is that so? Your upbringing then was pretty rough. Is that accurate to say?
It was. Both of my parents were alcoholics. My father worked in the oil rigs. He was a chef in the oil rigs. So he would go to work for 2 weeks and come home for 2.5 days. My mother had 10 kids. I was the youngest of 10. She never drove a car. And her schedule, I love my mom, sacred. She was the best mom she knew how to be, but her schedule 7 days a week was she'd get up, have her coffee. At 11 o'clock, she'd have her cup of tea, and 12 noon, she would crack her first beer. And she would drink right through the day, sit at her window in the trailer. And her nightcap, being an English girl, was a thing called a hot toddy.
Oh, yeah.
So she'd drink that as her nightcap and go to bed. So no money. I started working when I was 9 years old, delivering papers, became a timekeeper at the rink, which gave me good money. I was making $150 every 2 weeks. Back then with good pocket cash.
Sure.
So I had a bootlegger buying a Baby Duck champagne. That was our drink of choice, our trailer park boys, and bags of marijuana.
Wow.
How are you getting back and forth to hockey at that point if your dad's not around and your mom's?
Great question. So thankfully, I was a good hockey player. I had hockey families that I thanked every one of them, driving 30 minutes, 40 minutes to pick me up, because we lived on the outskirts. And then the towns we played in, I played in a town that was about almost an hour away called Devon from the trailer park. We played at an Indian reserve called Enoch. So 2 different locations, I would always get picked up and driven home. My mom never had a driver's license. So,
So you're a good enough player that they wanted you on the team, so they would go out of the way to get you. Okay.
100%. So any time I was, back then, and it wasn't like you could play anywhere. There was no like play in your community. So I had all these teams saying, hey, would you come here and play, like a long way away?
Sure.
I was a big goal scorer back then. So thankfully.
Now, do you think people knew what you're doing, the drinking and the marijuana and everything?
My close friends did, right? Like, we're driving to high school. Tommy, I went to Spruce Grove High School. I'm in grade 10, and we're smoking big fat hash joints. Getting to school, long hair, right? The tight jeans, a leather jacket. That's kind of how I was. Sure. And what happened, I did my own intervention. I said to my mother, I want to quit high school, take correspondence, which was homeschooling. I'll walk to the rink every day. We had an arena by the trailer park, and let me pursue my hockey. And ironically, my brother Frank was there, and she's like, no way. Like her older sons all quit school. He's like, you might as well let him do it because he's going to quit anyway. Mm-hmm. So she let me do it. He built me a little gym in the living room of the trailer. My coffee table was my bench press. So that's how I made it work. And I walked every day over to there and played shinny with the men. And then I moved when I was 15. My dad took me down to Markham, and the rest is.
And so this whole time with your father, he's gone all the time working. So you really don't have a father figure in the home.
No, my brother Frank was my idol. Right. He was my brother. He was my mentor. The guy that actually owned the arena, his name was Rod Matthews, because he'd always say, kid, why aren't you in school? So he really took a liking to me. So he really gave me some good fatherly, love and just stuff that I was missing, right? Because my dad was gone, I had to make money.
Yeah. And they talk to your brothers now. Were they all bikers? Were they all?
Or not all of them, 3 of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously the tough life, fights, partying.
I saw Tommy. I saw a lot of things. I saw guns. I saw some ugly things growing up as a young kid. That's that lifestyle. And, one of my brothers got into a lot of trouble and kind of had a bounty on his head and was hiding out in my mom's trailer. I came back from hockey in the summer and I couldn't figure out, curtains all closed. And then we found out later that there was a big debt that had to be paid off, a drug debt that, his life was in danger. So you find some of the stuff out later, but yeah, they were, very loving brothers. They grew up in a tough world, and, that back then in that time, they were part of that Harley Davidson and that lifestyle.
Well, are your parents both still alive?
No, they're both passed away.
And how about your brothers and sisters?
I've lost all 3 brothers who we've been talking about. I've lost, so that would be that. All my sisters are alive and 1 brother's still alive.
Okay.
Oh.
You've been through a lot as a kid at this point then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you go through your playing career, you retire out in Anaheim, and now you've got to get off in the real world. What do you do?
First thing I did was blew all my money. I got insurance money from the NHL and the PA, which was a lot of money back then. And sadly, between my ex-wife and I, we were uneducated.
Right.
I got
she partying with you?
No. She was a great mother. At this time, we got 3 kids.
Okay.
She was a wonderful mother till this day. She is. She knew I had issues. What was she going to do? So what happens is we end up moving back with her parents in 1999, and I moved to Unionville, Ontario, and basically had to get a job, and I got a job. And we divorced, I'm going to say 5 years later, and then, it took me to go to the NHL rehab and get sober, and I'm in my 16th year of sobriety. And once you get through that, nonsense and figure it out, then you can, like you and I, work hard.
Yeah. So you went to the program, the NHLPA, NHL program, the assistants?
Yeah. So it was a program in Merrickville, Ontario, where a lot of guys, business guys, it's a rehab center. And so the NHL paid for it and sent me there and saved my life. Because I'll tell you this, Tom, what I learned 30 days at Newgate 180 was more education than I got my whole life. They go through a cycle of addiction, family, relationships, and love. And, what you think I had no idea what life was all about. Right. Which really, that was one thing when they say, what would you change? Being uneducated as a young adult.
Yeah.
I said it earlier, that bothered me.
And it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, this conversation we had about our playing career, right? It's fantastic that you got to follow your dream and play in the National Hockey League. But you didn't get, and I would say, I didn't do any extra education. I mean, I went to truck driving school one time when I played for the Rangers. That's the only education I had. But you really don't, everybody else is learning more and their career is going up and up. The normal person comes out of college, they get a job, they move up the ranks in the job. And so by the time they get to the mid-30s, when we retire, they're now really getting going in their career. We're just getting started in a whole new career. Yeah. Did you have a relapse? I remember we talked about before. Did you have a relapse one time?
Yes, I did. So what happened was I've gone through my separation, living on my own, and I got into a really healthy lifestyle. So I was going to the gym every morning, and I met this lady at the gym, and we went out for dinner. And my drink of choice at that time was a Chardonnay called Kendall Jackson. So we're at the Keg restaurant, and this girl orders a 9-ounce Kendall Jackson. And I just started to buzz and go, oh my gosh. Right?
So now you've been sober for how long at this point?
We're talking probably be about 6-7 months.
Okay.
So anyway, I said, I'll have a soda water. She looked at me and said, soda water? You're going to have a glass of wine or a drink with me if we're going to, she was being funny, or anything's going to happen here later. So right away. I wasn't even thinking, and broke my sobriety and had a 9-ounce Chardonnay with her. And then I had another one. And sadly, I was a 3-drink guy that on my 3rd drink, I was phoning my crack dealer. So her and I went back to my home, and she left, and I phoned my crack dealer and relapsed. Yeah.
Did she know you had a problem at this point?
Not really. I talked a little bit about it, but we hadn't been dating much. Like, we hadn't been, like, there's just, it was just, met and, hey, let's go out. And so nothing was happening except this was my segue back into relapsing.
And how long before you got help again?
So we are talking 2006. I finally, about a year. And what happened was, it was my son's birthday, November 17th. I was in Edmonton, my hometown. And I was on a 2-day wreck. And I was flying home because, one of the things Theo Fleury and, you read their books, and, in sobriety, we understand each other. It's called surrendering. You can go to rehab 100 times, Tom. You can have people tie you and all these things until you're ready to surrender. So I was on this flight coming home from Edmonton, and calmly, I got home, poured all my booze out, all my opens out, just, not even worried that I was going to want them after, because a drug addict always needs that stash. And that was the last day I used. And it was just a quiet, surrendering time, peaceful.
Well, why do you think you surrendered then? What made you surrender?
I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was sick and tired of feeling the way I felt. I had 3 kids that depended on me. Now, if we rolled this thing back, my 3, serious times of committing suicide were all after, 2-3 day binges on awful drugs. And basically my reasoning was, my kids don't deserve me. Why would they need a father like this, right? So that was my, my little idea of, like, it's better just to check out, because you're a loser, you're a monster. And it's funny, I had this painting done of Gretzky and I around the Campbell Conference Trophy in '93 when we beat the Leafs. So what happened was, I had 2 paintings done, and it's a picture that's turned into a painting. And I made one for him and actually took it down to Phoenix and delivered it to him.
Yeah, cool.
And he signed one to me. So I had it in my hallway outside my bedroom. I couldn't look at it. And I'd come out of my bedroom to go to the bathroom. Remember, I'm living on my own. I had my kids half the time, 1 week on, 1 week off. I couldn't look at this thing because I felt him going, what the hell?
Sure.
Like, if anybody, like, what are you doing? So that was a haunting time for me. But yeah, it was dark, dark, dark.
So, Jim, what helped you finally kick at that point? What was there a person? Was there the program again? Like, what was it that made you finally give it?
Question. I'm going to say a little bit to do with my son's birthday on that flight home. I'm going to say a little bit to do with knowing I was going to die. Like, I was going to either become homeless or I was going to die. Because, Tommy, there was nights, and I am not exaggerating, that my heart was beating out of my chest, and I'm going, I'm going to die tonight. Like,
What, all the crack?
For crack, booze, look at Derek Bugard and some of these guys who had heart attacks in their sleep. Derek was doing Oxycontin or codeine or whatever. And I could move. Like, I was scared to move my leg, because I said, if I move my leg or even move, my heart's going to blow up. Oh yeah. It was unbelievable. Like, it was so surreal. So when all you're going through that, it's like, okay, this is the death sentence, or you get out of it. And it was just so calm and peaceful. And I go back to Theo's book when he said, I surrendered, and I surrendered, and it was just calm. And that was it.
So 3 times you considered suicide?
Yes, I did.
Never acted on it and didn't do anything to hurt yourself?
The closest time, no, never hurt myself. The closest time, cowardly way to do it, but I went to a field in my pickup, and I was going to do the old exhaust in the car and do it that way. And, obviously my 3 kids running through my head. And it's funny because after a 2-day wreck, you're depressed, you're a loser, you're like, you're just a mess. And it's like, okay, I'm worthless.
What's the timing? Like, when was the first time?
First time would have been, right before I got separated. So it would have been probably, Tommy, 2007, 2008, maybe.
Yeah.
We're in there. 2000.
Do other people know that you're thinking that way?
No, I didn't tell anybody, not even my ex-wife.
Okay.
So I didn't, it was one thing. It was my own little deal that I was close. I'm going to tell you this. I was close. And, when you come out of a shitstorm of, me smoking crack and taking pills, and it's an awful depression coming out of it. Like, it's just like you want to die because you feel so bad. And that's why this whole Oxycontin thing, which I was addicted to did you ever see Dope Sick? What's it called, with Michael Keaton?
I haven't seen it, no.
You got to watch it. It's the true story of Oxycontin. Over 500,000 people died. Sorry, over 500,000 people died. When I took Oxycontin, I was getting it from 3 doctors because I had to have it. You have to have it, because detoxing from that was the worst week of pain I went through. So that's just, an awful, you got to keep taking it. So Dope Sick. It's called Dope Sick. I recommend anybody and everybody who knows somebody suffering from drug abuse, watch that. It's a great show. True story on Pharma.
Right. So during this period of time where you've had 3 times where you thought about suicide, still doing the Oxycontin, the drinking, everything else, you've still got your boys with you half the time, right? You're still taking care of them?
Placing a daughter. So I get, the week I would have them, no funny business.
Oh, really? So you were able to control yourself?
Oh, yeah. No. I never put my kids at harm.
Okay.
So the week off, it was nuts, right? So I buckled down for the week. I had taken them to school. See, being addicted doesn't mean you have to do it every day, right? I took the pills every day because you got to keep taking the pills, but you can function on that. Get the cocaine and crack in that. No.
Wow. And are you holding down a job at this time too?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a manager at a sports center making good money, and they had no idea.
Maybe I'm naive, but it's almost amazing that you were able to pull that off with your kids, with the job, and do the stuff that you were doing. The addiction world, you can fool a lot of people. Well,
plan everything out. You plan when, I knew when I was going to call my crack dealer. I like, it was just like a schedule, like going to work.
Right.
I barred Shoeless Joe's, and as soon as I ordered my 3rd drink, speed dial, and away we go.
So help me with you. So I get a lot of people now, so the stuff I'm doing with the mental health world, contacting me and talking about suicide. So what, like, again, what gets you to the point? Like you talked about, I guess you thought your boys would be better off without you than you being alive in their world. Man, that's
my 3 kids. I'm going, they don't deserve this piece of, excuse my language, this piece of father. Like, because what kind of guy was I? Already I split from their mother. I'm living on my own, and they deserve better. Any family or kid does deserve better, right?
And you didn't think of reaching out to anybody else? You felt
it's funny. My best friend at the time, his name was Richard. He sadly passed away, but he knew I had an issue, and he's the one who called my intervention. So 9 o'clock, he said, I want to talk to you about a business opportunity. So I go to his house 9 o'clock, and what's ironic, Tommy, I was up all night using. I tried to blow off the meeting, right? And I'm like, no, I got to go to work, Rich. I'm going there. And he's like, no, this is really important. You need to come to my house. You got to come. So then I thought, I'm not going to disappoint my best buddy. So I pulled up, got into his house, and in his basement, my former in-laws, my ex-wife, interventionist, my cousin, and I sat there and got if you ever watched Intervention, that's what happened. And I jumped in his pickup from that meeting and went straight to Merrickville, Newgate 180.
So they jumped on you pretty good. Said, listen to this.
Yeah. He called the intervention. He knew I was going to crash. Like he knew I was messed up.
Right. So this was after you'd met this girl. You'd gone to rehab. You met this girl, you had a year now of partying again, and then this intervention happened.
No. My sobriety came back from me. Intervention got me to Newgate.
Okay.
Right? I met the girl after coming out of.
Okay, gotcha.
Right?
So Jim, after that second incident, you just cold turkey on your own, no rehab, nothing.
And you know what the magic thing was? The seed that was planted in rehab, I had all the tools.
Right.
I still had that addiction because I got the Kendall Jackson, I got the Pretty Blonde, I got. I'm thinking, that's pretty exciting stuff. That's the addiction bug that I was born with, right?
Mm.
So once you beat it, I said to my new wife the other day, she'll have the odd glass of wine, and there are people drinking in front of me. But I said, it amazes me that who I was as a young kid till today, that in just over 15 years, I've never had a drink, right? Like, and it's not to brag. It's just like,
No, congrats on that, man.
Yeah, it is something to brag about, right? Yeah, it's a huge
but
accomplishment.
you know what I mean? It was just like, I just kind of hit me because we were at a hotel, and in the hotel, they had all the booze bottles up top, so it was free to drink. And I'm just like, man, before I would have just smashed them, right? So,
Yeah.
How's your relationship with your kids now, Jim?
oh, awesome. I was just in Dallas visiting my daughter. She's down there working. But yeah, my son's captain. He plays university hockey here in Canada, so he's in his last year of university. Big right-hand defenseman. And then my other boy was into lacrosse, and he's now working in the real world. And great relationship.
And obviously they know about all this stuff. Suicide, love drugs.
I've talked to them. They're inspired by the fact that
Good.
their dad is alive and has beat this terrible.
So one of the things I've learned about addiction, and it doesn't mean it happens all the time, but a lot of people believe that some addictions are go back to some kind of trauma when you're younger, like early years before you're 7 or 8 years old. Do you believe that?
I believe this. I grew up watching my parents drink every day, watching my brothers come over. Like in our trailer, there could be 30 Harley Davidsons on a Saturday night parked out. We lived on a corner lot, and the place would be packed with people partying.
Right. So
you sit and you watch, and I started, like I told you, doing my own thing behind the scenes. My mom had no idea. We would go over to my buddy's place early. His mom would go to work, so we were smoking a joint, drinking a Magnum of champagne before grade 8 every morning. It's for school, right? That's because we could, right? So, I believe that I was born with it, because not all my brothers and sisters got into it. Like there are some that were bad and some that, never partied, didn't drink a lot or whatever, but I believe it was a bug that I was planted in me, and I fought it my whole life.
Yeah. So close to 16 years now, sober.
I'm in my 16th year, so next November 17th will be my 16th year of sobriety.
Right. So now you and your wife, so you're remarried.
Yep.
And now you guys have bought a junior team.
Roar Tigers, Junior A in the Ontario Junior Hockey League.
Very good. Very good.
Yep.
I see some of the videos you post there, all the practices and everything. So you actually get in there and coach, or you're running the team?
Oh, no, I don't coach, Tommy. I run a mentoring spin-off of it. It's called JT Prospects. So what that is an 8-week training program in the summer, and then we play summer tournaments. A lot of the Tigers play in it. So it's a junior, 16 to 20-year-olds. So I do that, and I also do 2 mornings a week in JT Prospects, which you would see on my Instagram.
Sure.
But then the Tiger stuff, I got a coach. You might remember Greg Johnson.
Yeah.
Was 55. He played in Toronto, played in Boston. He was a Boston second rounder, blonde kid.
Yeah.
So him and I played in the OHL together. He's my age, and he's my head coach. Great guy.
Cool.
So he would be a great guy for your podcast, because what's ironic about him is he became a cop. And then what's really impressive is he was the sniper on the TAC team here in Ontario.
Wow.
You've seen American Sniper with Bradley Cooper.
Yes.
He was that guy. So we sit in my office, and I want to talk about his career more than I want to talk about hockey.
Cool.
There's so much knowledge there of what goes on behind the scenes in the world, right?
So all the kids you're coaching and the parents, do they all know your background?
Oh, yeah. I do a presentation every summer. I have guest speakers come in, and then I do my own. It's a PowerPoint that I travel around. You might see some of my other videos where I'll go talk to corporations. I'll talk to hockey teams. I go into rehab centers. It's called Career Killers. So it's about an hour PowerPoint picture story. So there's pictures of Gretzky in hockey, my playing career. And then there's pictures of the ugly scene of drug life and blowing your life up. And what I tell all the young hockey players now, one mistake, no matter how good you are, one mistake can bury you. Yeah. And the latest story is the Henry Ruggs out in Los Angeles, the Raider there, that killed the girl, 22 years old.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But the thing is here's a young guy, $12 million in the bank. He's the first rounder. He's got his life, good looking kid. And he should have been home because they had a big practice the next morning, and he was on the strip and driving, blacked out and killed a woman. And he's going to spend most of his young life in prison now.
Wow. Right. So you're pretty clear that it is more the life you grew up with in the trailer, but then you also add the NHL life at that time where drinking's, it's a culture of drinking beer, right?
Yeah.
So you think at that point, though, you were already predisposed to being abusing alcohol and drugs?
Yeah. Like, my first year, my roommates, Grant Jennings, 2 Stanley Cups, and sure you would have played against Grant. So him and I, Western boys, we lived with a French kid, Yves Baudouin. We're living in Binghamton, New York. We're making, I'll never forget it, every 2 weeks, $1,372. We thought we were rich, 25 grand a month, right?
Yeah.
But, 2-4 of Miller Lite was $4.99. Right. So, we would go to practice, we would play our games, and in the afternoons, if you had a bug, we were down at the pool hall. There was a place in Binghamton called Funsies that we'd be there every afternoon playing pool, eating wings, and drinking beer. Right?
Is that true? When you're in the middle of it, it just seems like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is the pro hockey life.
Yeah. Then, do you remember Mark Taylor?
Yeah, sure.
Great leader. Yeah. So we had him and Daryl Evans, who you may have played with in LA. So Daryl and Mark were our veterans in Binghamton. And they really tightened the screws of guys. You can't continue to do this. Mark was a true professional. So he'd, come down at the end of his career telling us, you can't be in the bar every day drinking and eating wings. Like, you're never going to get to the NHL. So you would get these messages of going, but damn, was it fun, right?
Yeah.
What else were we going to do in a dark, shady town for, from Monday to Thursday, and then you play 3 games and 3 nights on the weekend?
And I think you kind of justify it too, that you're being a good teammate, right? That's the guys are together, they're bonding. I remember when I first came up, I went to New Haven to play the end of the season in my senior year. I went to get on the bus for the first road trip, and the guys threw me off the bus because I did not have my own cooler of beer.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was my real eye. Now, that was the minors, but then I got back to the NHL, and it's, you know how it was. There's beer in the locker room, beer on the bus, beer on the planes. It's just that I think they felt like, okay, that's how we're going to bond the guys together. And it actually did work, right? Because it was almost, if you weren't one of those guys going to have a beer, then you were really part of the team. You think back about the Edmonton Oilers, right? Those old stories where they go on the road for 2 weeks, but they would have to stop at the local bar before they went home to their families, even after being with all the guys for 2 weeks. So different culture.
But times have changed, as we've both known. That for many of us, that affected us. There's a reason I only played 115 games in the NHL and was playing in pro hockey for 10 years. A lot of injuries, the way I played, but I was very serious. I worked out hard.
Sure.
But you can't function properly when you're using and abusing. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So these kids you coach now, so inevitably they must get into some trouble themselves, right? Or drinking and drugs.
I knock on wood, Tommy, I do a real good job doing my due diligence on the kid and the family before we pick them.
Oh, okay.
So I've had real limited problems with drugs and alcohol because you find the character right away.
Yeah.
And there's kids that I've asked to leave the program because I could see, I'll give you an example. I don't like vaping. I don't like smoking. I don't like chewing, all these things that can make these kids sick. We don't allow it on my hockey team. So I had a kid that would not stop vaping. I said, I can't allow you to do that because it's going to end up killing you. And I don't want all these young kids thinking it's all right that you can stand outside the rink vaping.
Right.
So I had to release them, right? I just like, you got to go. It's going to affect you, right?
Right.
So just stuff like that. We keep it really clean and, you know,
So people know if they're going to be part of that program, here's the rules. Right?
You're not chewing, you're not nothing, you know, and parents want that. They want their young kids knowing that they're, you know, we don't allow hazing, you know, their team party is at a home, one of our veterans with parents there, and they have a meal. And if you're old enough to have a drink, you can have a drink. If a parent will allow his 16 or 17-year-old to have a beer, I want written permission.
Okay.
Because there's no garbage. I don't want to be that owner. All of a sudden, something bad happened.
Totally.
And what are you running, right?
Right. You talked about hazing. Tom and I had a conversation about hazing. And I think back when I was playing in college and we did it all the time. And we really felt like that was something we should be doing, that was part of the team. I think back about it now. It's like, what were we thinking about? It's just idiotic.
Well, I don't know what your initiation to pro was, but we were playing in Moncton, Calgary's farm team there. And I got my tape to the table. Well, and it was not pretty. And you could not get away with that today.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, you shouldn't. We were talking about Zdeno Chara when he was in Boston. I watched him get interviewed, and they talked about hazing. And he was fantastic the way he spoke. He said, listen, if you're on the team, you're on the team. There'll be no hazing here, and we're all going to be treated equally. Now, as a young player, you need to remember to respect the older players, but we're not going to haze you. It's just idiotic. I'm so embarrassed. That's one of the things in my life I look back at, like, what was I thinking about doing that to young players? I never got hazed myself. I don't know why. I don't know if somebody was scared of me or what it was, but part of it was when I went to college, the first year I was there was the first year they had a team. So, you know, there's nobody to haze us. So then as we moved along, the young kids are coming in and we're hazed. And I look back, it's like, oh, God. But, you know, even the guys that got hazed, I think they felt like that was just part of the, even if they didn't get hazed. Yeah.
I did. I went along with it. You know, I watched it beforehand. Okay, this is going to be me whenever I get the surprise, right?
Right.
But yeah, it was okay. I'm welcome to pro hockey.
Yeah, totally.
Wow. Jim, do you still go out and play at all? Or are you in men's league?
I do. No. I'll tell you this. So I love to play still. I don't play any competitive hockey, Tom. 124 documented fights in pro hockey and junior, whatever, right? They keep these stats. Never lost a tooth.
So,
playing in a old timers game with the Primo brothers, the Hanson brothers, in a place called Workworth, Ontario. And this guy lost his balance and basically baseball batted me across the face. Cleaned out my teeth, you know, blew up my lips, 35 stitches. And after that, I said, no more. I'd had 12 surgeries, Tom. That was just butchery. And I said, no more. So what I do is I'll go out when I'm training and I'll poke around having fun with the guys in the scrimmage.
Sure. So you've gone through all this stuff where you considered suicide 3 times. Yeah. Do you think you love yourself now?
Oh yeah. Tommy, I'm going to say this. I won't speak for you. I go to bed at night and I get up. And as you know, an addiction, not you, but I didn't drink or do drugs. I went to bed healthy. I got up. I lived the best life I could. I did. And so when you live like that, it's like, okay, I put a full, honest day's work in on myself. And that's why I'm so big into fitness now.
Yeah.
It's -8 here and I did 15K outside today.
Nice.
But it's just like, it's mental health. It's who I need to be now, right?
Totally.
So yeah, I love myself.
I did a hockey clinic last night in a place in New Jersey. And I have so much different now when I go to the clinic with the young kids. It's not just standing there having fun, maybe doing a little bit of drills. It's more talking to them about life lessons and motivation and things they can drive and have dreams and don't let go of your dreams and everything. I left the rink feeling, man, I felt good about myself, you know, and that might be the best, or let's say different than the playing days, right? Because it was really exciting to play in the NHL, but was I as good a person as I am now? And I'd say, no, there's no way. I'm just so much better now than ever. So listen, same to you. And I'm really proud of you. I had not realized all the stuff you had gone through, but the way you talk about it now, how you want to help other people, the way your kids admire you now for going through it all the time, you should be really proud of yourself. That's fantastic.
I appreciate that, Tommy. And we didn't touch much on the interventions I do now, driving people to rehab, and you talk about that, like hockey, I love it. It's hockey's not a job. Hockey is our passion, helping kids and all that. But when I get a family that you can save a family,
Right.
it's like scoring an NHL goal. I only scored 4, and I remember all 4 times that, like, I just scored in the league that I dreamed of playing in.
Sure. And they were all end-to-end rushes too, weren't they?
No, one was.
Well, okay.
Remember your first one, Jim?
One was against the Edmonton Oilers in Northlands Coliseum.
There you go.
But anyway, just the when you hear from the family and just
Sure.
It's a beautiful feeling when you're helping people now.
So families will reach out to you and ask you to come and have an intervention for one of their family members?
Oh yeah, I'm very
well.
busy, especially through COVID. I was very busy doing interventions, taking people to rehab, bringing them home, right? Working with them after the scenes. I work with not a lot, but enough people to this time of keeping them sound and inspired to live a healthy, clean life, right?
Okay. Corey Hirsch, who I've become a good friend, and Corey got through his own mental health issues.
Yep.
He said to me one time, he said, you are facing a tsunami of mental health issues coming up.
Yeah.
Do you believe that?
Oh, Corey's so bang on.
Yeah.
I admire him. His story is amazing. It's powerful. But what's going on in our world right now is very scary. With people falling into addictions. Now, obvious the mental health, not wanting to work. They here in Canada, they're paying us to stay home.
Yeah.
And it's created a lot of bad stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of family suffering.
Well, listen, your story is a fantastic story. You fought through a lot. When you started smoking cigarettes, like at 12 years old, is that what it was?
Oh, yeah, you're smoking dope, so it's just the chain, right? I mean, again,
It's not funny, but it's just I'd like to see like a 12-year-old smoking cigarettes and be like, are you kidding me?
Isn't it amazing, eh? And they had like cool kids in the trailer park. Like, I tell people, I love the humor of the trailer park boys, but it's like, that's us. Like, it's us.
Well, all right, brother. I'll be thinking about you every morning at 3:53 in the morning. Daily ritual, the daily grind.
Right. Thank you for letting me come on again. Tom, I admire you. I think you're a great role model for so many people. You inspire me, and keep doing what you're doing, because the older we get and the older we can keep doing this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are looking and changing their lives because of people like you.
Yeah. And you. Yeah, there's a two-way street there too. So great to have you on again, brother. Good to see you.
Thanks, Tommy, too, eh? Good to see you.
Thanks, Jim.
Hey, bye, Tom.
See you, brother.
Wow, what a story that was, Tom. By all means, he shouldn't be with us after the addiction and the fighting and the injuries and then the attempts, and here he is, a positive guy like yourself.
Yeah, he's a really inspiring story. Again, I got to know him just a little bit at my last training camp and his first training camp with the Kings. And when I got back in touch with him, he started telling me all the stuff he'd been through, and I was like, wow, it's almost even start his life the way he did and fight through all that.
Yeah. Trailer park and
Yeah.
biker gangs at his house and addiction and his parents not being, just an amazing story that he, can say he's where he is now. He loves himself. He owns a junior team. That's really impressive.
And helping other people too, right? He isn't just saving himself.
Huge. Yeah. Driving people back forth. I mean, that's a successful second chapter.
Yeah.
If ever there was one.
Totally. Yeah. Great man.
Yeah.
Great
Awesome.
man.
Awesome.
All right, Grasshoppers. Thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.